my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I've got another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we are talking about The Invited by Jennifer McMahon, a book which asks the question, what happens if you don't just move into a haunted house, but you built one? This book was extremely good. It was recommended to me by one of you guys. I think it was, I know I keep guessing. I know I've guessed Lyndall and Kim V, but I think maybe it was Alana. I don't know. But one of you recommended it to me, and I jotted it down the moment you did because you said that you had heard that Jennifer McMahon's style was similar to Shirley Jackson, and I love Shirley Jackson's writing. I love all of her stories, and so I grabbed this right away, and it was really good. It was really good. So for a brief moment, the book starts off back in 1924. We meet a woman named Hattie who we can tell is in grave danger right off the bat. We learn that since she was a little girl, she's been able to know things she has no way of knowing, things she doesn't know why she knows. For example, at one point, she just knew that her father was going to get hit by lightning and killed. And so she tells her parents, she warns them, and they don't listen, and he does. And soon after that, people start to get really suspicious of Hattie because she predicts things and then they happen, and of course they start to call her a witch. Now 1924 seems like a very recent time for this to be happening because how it all ends for her is eventually she is killed by the townspeople in the traditional way that witches were killed. And she has a young daughter named Jane. And the final straw for the townspeople was she predicted that the school was going to burn down and that some children were going to perish. And because she knew that was going to happen, she kept her daughter home that day. And of course, what she predicted happened. And that's just the last straw for the townspeople. And so they come for her, and they also come for her daughter, but her daughter manages to run away. The people are getting ready to do away with her. They demand to know about her fortune, because while her and her daughter lived very modestly, it was well known that her parents were very wealthy and that she must have done something with their wealth. And she refuses to tell them, though the people are like, come on, do something good for the town before you go, but she won't. And then that's kind of over. Next, we fast forward to the present, well, 2015. And we meet a couple. Their names are Helen and Nate. And they have recently come into an inheritance because Helen's dad has passed away. And so Nate kind of just asks her, he's like, you know, what would make you the happiest? And she responds by telling him that she would love to live out in the middle, kind of nowhere. Get out of the city, get out of their busy lives, and just go live somewhere quietly. And he's like, you know, we can do that. We have the funds to, and if we're going to, now is the time. They get all packed up, they leave Connecticut, and they move to the woods in Vermont. You guessed it, to the town where Hattie used to live. Next up, in 2015, we meet a young girl named Olive. She is a teenager. She lives in the town where Nate and Helen will be moving. She lives with her dad. Her mom has recently kind of just disappeared. She was there one day and then gone the next. And the rumors around town were that she met another man, and so she left her family to go and be with him. But based on everything that we learn about her, and especially about her and Olive's relationship, it just doesn't make any sense that she would have left her daughter. Like, you know, I feel like leaving your husband is one thing, leaving your children is a whole nother thing, and it just doesn't seem that that is a thing that Lori, Olive's mom, would have done. Also learn that one of the things they like to do together was hunt for Hattie's treasure, because they live in the town. It's long been town lore. A lot of people have chalked it up to just that legend, but for Lori and Olive, they believe it to be true, and they spend their time hunting for it. So back now to Helen and Nate. We see them decide that instead of buying a house that already exists, they're going to build one. And they find a piece of land that is going for really cheap. The owner just wants it gone. which is never a good sign. So they buy this land, and there's a little trailer on it that they can live in while they build their house. Now we get to my one real problem with this story. It's that these two people, who for the majority of their adult lives have been school teachers and have no history in house building or carpentry or architecture or anything, decide that they're going to build this house themselves with the help of some YouTube videos. And that's where you really have to suspend your disbelief. You just have to put it out there and be like,
okay, all right, you're doing it. You're doing the thing.
You're doing the plumbing, you're doing the wiring, you're doing all the electric work all by yourself without any experience. So, but just put that on the back burner. Don't worry about that. Just imagine that's a thing that's easy to do. Because the rest of the book is great. So soon after that, Helen and Nate meet Olive, because she's always sort of slinking around the property in the bog. There's this big bog that, legend has it, is where Hattie's body is after she was killed by the townspeople, and she's just always out there kind of exploring. And she sees Nate and Helen, and she's not crazy about the fact that they're going to be building on this land that, you know, is sort of sacred town land, and she doesn't want them there. So she starts stealing little things here and there, like a tool, Nate's cell phone, to kind of try to freak him out and run him off. But of course that doesn't work, and they soon find out that it's Olive, or Ollie as she's known. Eventually they realize that she's just kind of there, and they make friends with her, and they enlist her help even to build the house. So now it's two inexperienced builders plus a child building this house. Anyway, eventually, after hearing a bit from Ollie, Helen gets really interested in the history of the land and the town, and she starts, you know, going to the library, trying to check out books, because, you know, Ollie's kind of told her that rumor had it that the person who used to own this land, Hattie, was a witch. And she starts finding out a lot of really interesting things, and then when she's looking around town, you know, just kind of exploring, she finds pieces of the history in unexpected ways. At one point she goes to the salvage yard where Ollie's aunt works. Her name is Riley. She comes more into the story as we go along, but while she's there, they find a piece of wood that's a beam that was part of the hanging tree from when Hattie was killed. And for whatever reason, Helen is moved to purchase this to put in her house. And, you know, she loves that it's old, she loves that it has the history, but, you know, if it's dark history, but still she thinks like it's bringing it back to the land where it was supposed to be, and maybe that will, you know, bring peace to something, you know, a completion, a conclusion, something. And so she does, and it's soon after that, that one night when she goes, because they're still sleeping in the trailer while they're building the house, but one night in the middle of the night she goes into the house, or I think her and Nate are, they decide to sleep in there because the walls are up, and so they bring their sleeping bags in, they zip them up together, and Helen wakes up through the night, and she sees Hattie in the house, sitting in the corner, kind of underneath the beam, and she's shocked because she describes it as like as clear as day, like you sitting in front of me is how real Hattie looked. And she tries to wake Nate up, and when he goes to look, of course she's gone. Nate, meanwhile, has his own thing going on. Nate, as soon as we meet him, we know he's really into nature. Even when they lived in the city, he would go on bird watching expeditions, and he just loved being steeped in nature. And so he sets up cameras outside so that he can see the different wildlife in the area, because they're right in the middle of the woods. And eventually he starts seeing a white deer. And when Helen mentions that to Ollie, Ollie's like, oh, yeah, there's stories about the white deer, that the white deer is Hattie taking a different form. But of course Nate won't hear that, and he's just becomes, as the story goes on, he slowly becomes obsessed with this deer. and getting pictures of it, and he starts putting a lot of money into better cameras and buying food to sort of lure the deer. And as Hattie's becoming more and more obsessed with the sort of dark history of the house, Nate's worrying about her. And then on the other side, as Nate is becoming more and more obsessed with this deer, Helen's starting to worry about him. It's just they're both starting to give each other creeps at this point. So anyway, as time goes on, Helen starts digging deeper and deeper into the history of Hattie herself and like what happened to her daughter, and you know, are there any other relatives? Are there any other living relatives even of Hattie? So through some sort of deductive reasoning, she figures out that it's most likely that Helen was able to, that Jane, Hattie's daughter, was able to escape, and that she moved and started a life over, because they soon found the sort of death certificate for a woman named Jane Whitcomb. And her name before she got married had been Jane Smith, and she had said that she had no living relatives, and it all just kind of lined up. And when they eventually saw sort of a picture of grown-up Jane, this Jane Whitcomb, there was no denying it in their minds that this is the same person as the photo of the little girl Jane that they had seen. And so they find out that she died fairly prematurely as well in a fire at a factory where she worked. So after learning that, Helen goes out to where the factory used to be, and she sees that it's being torn down and that condos are going to be put up in its place. And she's talking to the kind of construction guy, and he tells her, she asks if she can take some of the bricks from the rubble, and because she's building a house, and he says, yeah, sure, you know, take what you want. So she loads up a bunch of bricks and takes them home, and then they use them to put somewhere in the house. Now she has a branch from the tree for Hattie, and then bricks from the place where Jane died. And then very shortly after that, one night she wakes up, she goes into the house, and she sees Hattie brushing the hair of Jane. Meanwhile, back with Ollie, we are learning more about her. She's kind of an oddball at school. She's rarely attending it. She doesn't like the people. They don't like her. She's going through it, you know, since her mom left. And her dad's going through it too. He's constantly renovating the house under the impression of, like, when your mom comes back, she's gonna love this. You know, we got to make it perfect for when your mom comes back. And he's tearing down walls and constantly just painting walls, tearing them down, putting them back up, renovating everything to make it perfect for when her mom comes back. And that is just, it's driving Ollie insane. Also, like I mentioned earlier, she has a aunt named Riley. That's her dad's sister. And Riley's really great to Ollie. She takes her on adventures, she gives her gifts, she really lets her know, like, if you need anything, I am here for you always. And then eventually Ollie introduces Riley to Helen and Nate, and they kind of all just become friends, and Helen and Riley really connect, and Riley helps to take Helen around town, introduce her to people, help her get more of the house's history. So I'm going to go ahead now and tell you that if you do not want spoilers, now is definitely the time to click away. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I would definitely recommend this book if you like a good creepy story. I wouldn't call it horror. It's not horror, so you don't have, you know, if you're a little put off by horror, it's not that. It's a thriller in some ways. It's suspenseful, and it will make the hairs on your arms stand up. It's creepy. It's definitely creepy. Last night I was finishing it up, and I was pulling the covers up extra tighter at my chin at some parts, and just feeling real creeped out. It's well written. It creeps up on you and just wraps itself around you and gives you the chills. Jennifer McMahon is a fantastic writer, a great storyteller. She knows how to write a backstory. I loved that. She was so good with all the backstories, and I can't wait to read more of her books. So there you go. If you want the spoilers, let's keep going. So things are progressively just getting more tense. Helen's lying to Nate more about where she's going and why. Nate's falling deeper and deeper into the hole with this damn deer. And Helen even finds a notebook where he's been writing about, you know, his nature notebook where he's been writing about the sightings of the deer. So at first it starts pretty normal. He's writing about birds he sees, you know, little entries. And then all of a sudden it switches to this deer, and it's just pages and pages and pages and pages of notes about this deer. And it starts to really creep her out because he starts talking about it eventually like it's his mistress, like he's in love with this deer in like a really weird way, and he just can't stop looking for it. And sometimes he will come home soaking wet, filthy dirty, because he's fallen in the bog or fallen in wherever. It's just, it gets real weird. In the meantime, Ollie, when she's out exploring one time, she finds a necklace. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this whole necklace storyline because I feel like we'd be here for too long. There's a lot that happens with and about this necklace, but it's a really interesting kind of side story. Not even a side story, it all ties in, but we're not going to talk about it too much. But the necklace leads Ollie to eventually finding out the truth about what happened to her mother. Because as time goes by, she's just not buying that her mom just took off without her. Especially because eventually she finds her mom's journal, where her mom at one point does talk about leaving, but she talks about taking Ollie with her. And this all of a sudden makes Ollie really suspicious of her father. She thinks her father's done something because in the journal her mom also mentions that she found the treasure and that she hid it again for safekeeping so that when she and Ollie can leave, they can take the treasure with them and be set up because it's a lot of money. And she says it was, she found it in a little metal box and that she buried it somewhere. So now all of a sudden, Ollie thinks that her dad is ripping apart this house for the purpose of finding the money. She thinks he thinks he's hidden it. She thinks she's hidden it somewhere within the walls of the house. And so she thinks he's just on a mission to find it. Meanwhile, back with Helen and Nate, Helen, again, is she still digging for the family tree of Hattie to see what happened because she learns that Jane had kids. She also learns that one of Jane's children was a woman named Anne. And that Anne was murdered by her husband. So we have this long line of women who are all coming to tragic ends. But she finds out that Anne also has kids. And one of those kids was named Gloria. And she figures it out. She finally puts it together when she finds a wedding certificate for Gloria to a man named Dustin. And Dustin is Ollie's father. So they figure out that this Gloria, that was a descendant from Hattie, it was Hattie, Jane, Anne, and then Gloria, is Ollie's mom, even though Ollie's mom went by Lori. But then Helen eventually puts it all together that Lori could be short for Gloria, and then she realizes that Ollie is also the most recent final descendant. And so she puts it all together in her mind that Hattie clearly wants something from her, because even though Hattie is her presence and Jane's presence and eventually Anne's presence, because Helen goes to that home as well and finds something to bring and put in the house, while their presence is there, it's not threatening. It's not a threatening presence. Helen instead feels like Hattie needs her to help her. Once she realizes that Ollie is, you know, Hattie's great-great-great-granddaughter, she realizes that what Hattie wants is for her to protect this child. And at this point, who we're thinking Ollie needs protection from is her father. But then there's a showdown at the bog, and we quickly learn that who Ollie needs protecting from is her Aunt Riley. Her Aunt Riley had been jealous of her mom for whatever reason. There'd been weird tensions between Riley and her brother Dustin, but eventually she puts them aside because she realizes if she wants to get back close to this family, she has to make friends with Lori, and that's what she did. Back when Lori was still around, Riley did with Lori much like what she did with Helen. You know, she got close, she befriended them, she seemed helpful. And then Riley and this kind of seance society of sorts in town used Lori as a way to try to find the treasure, because everyone's constantly been looking for this treasure. Because Lori, much like her mother, her grandmother, her great-grandmother before her also had these powers where she knew things that she didn't know how or why she knew them. And Ollie also has those powers. So Lori, as she was helping them, she also was getting scared of them. She felt like something was wrong, something was weird, and so she wrote about that in her journal, how she needed to get away from them. And so when she found the treasure, she did not tell them. And Riley had a feeling that Lori had found the treasure, and that's why she kills her. And that's where Lori is. Lori hasn't run off. Lori hasn't left Ollie behind. So that pretty much brings about the end eventually. So that brings us to the beginning of the end. Riley gets arrested. Ollie and her dad are going to be fine. Ollie realized her dad had nothing to do with it. He had nothing to do with her mother's disappearance. He didn't know anything about the treasure or anything like that. Nate sort of sees the white doe for what she was, you know, a spiritual manifestation of Hattie. Things are okay for them at the end. Their house is finished. They're living in it. If the spirits are still there, they're not bothering them, and vice versa. And at the very, very end of the book, we see Ollie go out to the bog, and she says, you know, I haven't been here very often lately, but it's time to come out now. And she just knows where to go, in part to the necklace, which again, I'm not getting into the necklace storyline, but she knows where to go, and she starts digging, and she finds the treasure where she knew she would. And then that's the end of the story. As her shovel hits the tin box, the story ends. And it's just such a perfect place for it to end. And I thought it was such a great book. And honestly, as I was reading it, it would make such a great movie or even a series. It'd be a great series. I'm really loving sort of the subtle, scary series lately. Like, if you've been around here for a while, you know I love The Haunting of Hill House. It is such an amazing, scary story on Netflix, told so well, so well. There's not many jump scares. I can't stand jump scares. That's not my kind of scary. I like the slow burn scary. And The Haunting of Hill House is perfect. So I feel like this would kind of has the same sort of tone to it. That slow burn that just envelops you in scary feelings without the jump scare elements. So anyway, you guys, I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this book talk. If you've already read The Invited, let me know what you thought. Or if you're planning on reading it, let me know that as well. And I will see you guys on Monday. Bye!